Before we begin, a quick word to anyone who has only recently discovered the podcast. If this is your first time listening, or you've only joined us over the last few weeks, I'd really encourage you to go back and start at podcast 41. That's where this journey really begins. The story of the Cúrnailt public inquiry, the campaign, the people involved, and the events that have brought us to where we are today unfold from that point onwards. I think that you'll find that many of the issues we discuss in these episodes make much more sense when heard in their proper context. Of course, you're very welcome to dip in wherever you like, but if you're wondering how we arrived here, podcast 41 is probably the best place to begin. Now, with that said, today's episode is a little different. Normally, I spend time reflecting on the events taking place around the public inquiry. Today, I'm reflecting on my own part in them. Over the last few days, I've been listening back to a couple of recent episodes and doing some thinking. I've come to the conclusion that, on this occasion, I reacted when I should have responded, so that's where I'd like to begin. I've been doing a bit of thinking over the last few days. One of the advantages of recording your own thoughts is that you also have to live with them. Unfortunately, they don't disappear into the ether. They're still there waiting for you to listen back. And so I did. And I came to a conclusion that wasn't particularly comfortable. I wasn't at my best. Following Cormac's exclusion from the public inquiry, I reacted to what was happening around me instead of responding to it. There's a difference. One comes from emotion, the other from reflection. And that time, emotion won. I don't take back the fact that I was deeply concerned. I do take responsibility for the way I allowed those concerns to be expressed. If I expect members of Save Our Sperns to conduct themselves with dignity, respect and fairness, then I have to prepare to live by exactly the same standards. Leadership doesn't work any other way. So I've written to the 3 commissioners and offered them my sincere apology. It's all very well asking others to reflect on their actions. Every now and again, it's no bad thing to look in the mirror yourself. I've always tried to ensure that this campaign, passionate without becoming hostile, and determined without losing its sense of proportion. On this occasion, I let myself down. In doing so, I also let down Save Our Sperns, and I regret that. As for the podcasts themselves, well, one has now been humanely put out of its misery, and the other has received what can only be described as a rather severe editorial haircut. The interesting thing about all of this is that it has reminded me of something. There is a world of difference between speaking out and simply speaking in anger. One requires conviction, the other only requires a bad day. I spent years encouraging people to pause, to look at the evidence, to think before reaching conclusions. It would be more than a little hypocritical if I wasn't prepared to do exactly the same when it comes to my own words. Many years ago, I made a promise to myself that I would never remain silent in the face of something I genuinely believed to be wrong. I still intend to keep that promise. I've realised that speaking up isn't the difficult part. The difficult part is doing it in a way that people can actually hear what you're trying to say. This podcast has always been about trying to make sense of the complicated process of the public inquiry, asking difficult questions, and giving a voice to people who often feel they haven't been heard. And that won't change. If anything, this episode has reminded me that how we say something can be just as important as what we say. So thank you to those who continue to listen, even when I occasionally need reminding that I'm as human as everyone else. Right, enough self-reflection and normal service will now resume.